Alrighty, everyone. So, first and foremost, Drybear, how
I'm a
are
chat.
you? How
I'm a
are you today? Oh, wow. There we
I'm
go.
a chat. Okay. I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing alright. Let me fix. There we go. Alright, so tell us a little bit about yourself. Just
Um,
a short bio, if you will.
I'm a nerd. I play video games. I've been playing video games since I was a kid. But I also go to school, I work, and I live my life to its fullest.
Fantastic. How did you get into video gaming?
Well, when I was a kid, when I was like 4 or 5 years old, my
Mm-hmm.
dad helped me build my first computer.
Mm-hmm.
Since then, I played, God, like Commander Keen. I played Duke Nukem and Doom, and
Ooh.
I just really enjoyed video games.
Yeah.
And then when I was growing up, it just kind of stuck with me, playing like Warcraft 3. It's all the new games that came out. I played EverQuest 1 when it came out. Then I played Unreal Tournament, and my brother was really into it, so I was really into it because of him, because he's older than me. Like I just followed in his footsteps and played a lot of games, and I started, just it became a part of my life regardless of what I was doing.
Yeah. Um, so you make YouTube videos, and you've been making them for about a year now?
About 11 months, yeah.
So why did you decide to start making YouTube videos? Because that's how you got your start in esports, right?
Yeah, exactly. What happened was I played a lot of Heroes of New Earth, and then I played a bunch of League of Legends, and then I don't know, they never really stuck. Like, it was fun, but it wasn't really, the greatest. So when Smite came out, I saw an ad for it on a League of Legends website, and I thought it would be fun to try it. So I bought like the $8 gem pack to get into the beta, and
Yeah.
I started playing it, and it was a lot of fun. And what happened was, I actually had a little extra free time that summer, and then I was playing Zeus, and everyone kept complaining that Zeus was really bad, that no one could play Zeus, that Zeus was terrible,
Uh-huh.
one of the worst gods in the game, and I disagreed entirely. Like, I played Zeus really well. I really enjoyed Zeus, and I thought Zeus was very strong if you knew how to play him. And I don't know, I'm always a very, hardworking person. I wanted something to do with myself, so I decided I was just gonna make a guide on Zeus so that everyone knew exactly how Zeus was, like how good he was and how awesome he was. So I made a guide on him. I posted it up on YouTube, and then I put it up on the Reddit, and I had a lot of fun with it. It seemed like everyone enjoyed it, and they had a good response to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I made another guide. The first Zeus guide took about, I think, like 32 hours to make.
What?
Second one, the Artemis guide, I think took about 28 hours. Because you have to like do the recording, and then you have to go sift through the footage and collect the footage that you want, and then do the audio recording, and then the scripting, and then do the effects and the on-screen stuff. Plus, I was learning as I was going.
Yeah.
I had never made a video before. I had never used the software before. I didn't know what I was doing, so I had to like learn as I was going. So it took a long time. Um, but then the more I did it, the more I realized that I actually enjoyed doing it. And then I kind of just like started looking through YouTube to see what other YouTubers did, and what they did to make their channel successful. They did commentaries, and they did guides, and they did videos and all kinds of stuff. So I started just I don't know I started immersing myself into it the more that I did it.
Yeah. You try to make a YouTube video every single day, correct?
Yes.
Why is that? If it takes you so long to do it.
Well, the guides are the ones that take a long time. The commentaries, I usually just play like a 45-minute game, and I spend like 15 minutes editing it, and then I record it
On
and put it up. So
Wait, where do you want
it's
me to
not
do
like.
that? Okay. I'm sorry. Bart was asking me a question. Can you
uh,
can you repeat yourself?
yeah, the guides are the ones that take a long time. Anything
Yeah.
that's like post production or created or scripted, takes a long time. But the commentaries don't. But the biggest thing is just I'm sure, as you know, I mean, sure as everyone who does anything via esports or gaming or internet knows that consistency is your biggest strength. If you're not consistent, then it's very difficult for people to show up on time to watch you or to go and find you. So
Mm-hmm.
the daily videos is something that I started doing. Let's see, I started July last year. And I started, I think, late August. I started doing daily videos,
Mm-hmm.
just as a commitment to myself to make sure that I had consistent content being put out. And it came to the point where people were actually showing up, like they would show up in the morning. They'd be like, "Where's my video?" They would
Yeah.
expect it, so they're always there on time. They're always being there to look for the video. And it just came to the point that that kind of consistency is
Mm-hmm.
it's much more beneficial than anything else I could have done. That I really strived as hard as I could to put it. And there was times, I was working. For about a month and a half, I was working two jobs, and I had school, and then I was just to the point where like I didn't have the energy or the effort level in order to play a good game. So I think God, it was like September through like the end of November. I was playing terrible games. Like everything I was posting was horrible. I was feeding, I was crying and complaining, but I
And
was still posting it because I wanted to make sure that there was a video every single day.
you don't feed anymore?
Not as bad.
Not as bad.
There's like the stream games, but I just wasn't. The general rule that I learned from Woody's Gamertag is that if you're gonna put something up on YouTube, you have to be proud of it. And there was a couple of videos, actually the majority of the videos I was posting through the fall last year, I wasn't proud of. But I was putting them up just for the fact of consistency. Consistency is gonna be first and foremost the highest priority when I'm doing those videos.
Definitely, I definitely agree. All right, so the main reason, or I wouldn't say the main reason, but what's something that I'm very curious in, why I brought you in for an interview is a new website called Tiermonster, tiermonster.com.
Yes.
When did that go up exactly?
We launched, it's going to be 2 weeks this coming Sunday night.
Okay, so I've taken a look at it myself, and I'm actually really impressed with it. And can you tell the viewers a little bit about what it is, in case they haven't seen it themselves?
Tiermonster.com is, well, at the very ground level, it's a competitive gaming site for Smite. It keeps track of all your stats, allows you to compare your stats to other competitive players. It ranks the teams based on their performance, specifically in scrims and tournament play. It's basically just like a one-stop shop for everything you need to know about competitive Smite, and also like helps you track your games because it's not always perfectly clear. I mean, with the new introduction of the Smite stats, it's a little bit better, but we just wanted like a very immersive look into how things work. I mean, you can go to a professional player's gaming page and see. You can click on a god that they play, and it'll tell you how they play that god specifically. Everyone always asks, how do you play this god? How do you build this god? So it's all specific about what they do. I mean, we have awards to benefit or encourage players to do better. We have like all the awards on the front page, and then awards on your actual plays. So if you get like a pentakill, it'll be there forever on Tiermonster, so everyone knows that you got a pentakill, or the stats that you have, and how that's weighed. But also, you can look at the gods, how the gods are played. If you go to the gods page itself, just without any players involved, it'll say, the most popular items built for each slot, and the common item build, which is a little bit better than recommended. It's literally just based on raw data, like how often this build is created for that character.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very easy to just go to the god page, figure out how to play a god that way, just empirically, not just, you don't have to really think about it. It's just empirically, this is how the god is played. Then you can go to the player profiles, you can check out the stats for every god, how the gods are played. And it's also more about the players themselves. I mean, we have active forums that go on. We have, an 8,000 gem giveaway. We have, all these kind of things coming up that are planned. And also the fact that when you go to a player's page, you can enter in your Twitter, you can enter in your Twitch, you can enter your Facebook, your YouTube channel. All those links will be there. Your Twitch is embedded there with chat. So while you're looking at the god stats for a player, the embedded Twitch stream will be there when they're live. And also anyone who's live on Tiermonster will be on the front page. So anyone who's streaming Smite at that time will be on the front page of Tiermonster. So it's just really good for people who, like to play Smite, like to look at Smite, and like to follow along with stats and just kind of keep track of everything.
Yeah, that sounds like an awesome tool just to build a community as a whole for Smite.
Yeah, that's really what we were going for when we made it.
So is that the reason why you and the people from Tiermonster decided to start it, to like build up the community, or do you have a different direction for it?
Well, at the basic level, yeah, that's exactly what we want. We wanted a place to go, and it seemed to the point that there wasn't a place where you could find that information laid out all in one place. I mean, you can track it down, you can look around for it, and it just didn't seem that there wasn't a way to go around about it. Originally, it kind of just came together in pieces. It was originally 2 sets of 2. It was me and one of my buddies, and then 2 other guys who were working, and kind of just joined forces to make, Tiermonster as a whole. Originally, it was just we wanted profiles for players that you could look at it. Myself and one of my other friends, the guy who does all the graphics for the website, all the videos, video processing, and all the graphics for the backgrounds and everything, we decided that we didn't like ELO, we didn't like the ELO system, and we didn't like the fact that everyone thought it was ELO, or even the true skill system, or just the way it's rated. I mean, when you play ranked, right now in Smite, you get less rating when you play support than you do for playing carry, or you're doing a lot of damage or getting a lot of kills. So what we decided to do is we wanted to make sure that there was a different rating system that was more intelligent based. It was based on, what is your responsibility, what is your goal for that game, and how well are you accomplishing that goal. So when you're playing support, we rate you on a different rating system so that it's based on, what are your responsibilities as a support, which are completely different than a carry. I mean, we're not gonna judge you on your kills, we're not gonna judge you on your damage done, because it's not your job to do that. So you shouldn't be rated on that for playing support. So we made a separate rating system just for support that is based on you doing your job as a tank and as a support role to make sure that gets done, and then how well you do that is how you're rated. And it's really cool to see how the rating system kind of panned out. I mean, we worked on it for like a month and a half, just constantly working on the formulas, developing on that and moving it around. It's just a very large formula, and it's very intelligent based, and it's based on how the game is played and how you're playing relative to other players, rather than just a static, you won this game, so you get this rating type thing. It's very involved with the statistics. So we have that, and we also have a separate rating system for competitive, which would be the 5v5 Conquest, Solo Ranked Queue, and Conquest Challenge, and it has nothing to do with the game modes. We have a separate rating system. We have 4 of them. We have a separate one for like Domination, Arena, Assault, like all the fun game modes. And we have a competitive rating system, and then we split up the carries and support, which we felt was entirely necessary. And it's kind of demoralizing when you're playing a perfect support. At the end, you're like 2-2 and or like 2-3 and 15, and you bought a whole bunch of wards, and then you win the game, and everyone goes up to your carry and starts patting him on the back, and you're just like, why I did stuff too.
So, Tiermonster, exactly what you were talking about, your ranking system, it's separated into Valhalla, Elysium, Arcadia, and Paradise.
That's correct.
Out of those 4, what means what? So people can kind of understand when they go onto the website and look at it themselves.
Well, if you look at the front page of Tiermonster, the far left is going to be Valhalla. Now, if you look, I mean, there's the little icons. If you hover over them, those are JavaScripted there, so you can see what the details are. But the first one is just going to be competitive carry rating. That's the very first one. So this is competitive, just going to be 5v5 Conquest, Solo Ranked, and also the Conquest Challenge queues. That's the only way we're pulling stats from that, and that's just going to be for carries. Now, this is based on a separate rating, a separate formula. This is just going to be how you play as a carry, so the damage you deal, the kills you get, the farm you get, and a lot of extra factors. I mean, it's very, very involved. But it's basically just how you play as a carry. The second one is going to be Elysium. Now, this is the support. You can see by the shield with the plus on it. This is going to be your support rating. That's, again, competitive, so 5v5 Conquest, Solo Ranked, and also Conquest Challenge. And that's just going to be you playing as a support. So have you played support? I mean, if you click on the top players for Elysium, I mean, it's not very surprising. The only thing that's surprising, there's going to be Spray on in the top 5, but that's just because he likes playing Hell a lot in the middle, and that affects his support statistics a lot because of the heals and CC and all that. But you can see, I mean, if you look at the 2 categories, you'll see a lot of support players up on Elysium versus Valhalla, where you see a lot of carry players or players that play, mid-roll or side lane carry, and that's just because the ratings are split up that way. Arcadia is just going to be pretty much all Conquest. There's no limitation there. Anyone who plays Conquest, it's just normal Conquest, and we just wanted like a standard rating system. This isn't split for carry or support or anything. It's just who's the best at Conquest in general. So that's just what Arcadia is for. And then the far right is going to be Paradise, and we realized that a lot of people who there's just so many fun game modes in Smite. I mean, you can play Assault, you can play Domination, you can play Arena. There's just so many fun things to do that we wanted to have a separate rating system that's who's the best at having fun type thing. It's not the competitive. It's just, and that's why we call it Paradise. You go to there to have fun. You're playing Arena, you're playing Assault, Domination, whatever. You're just there to play for fun, but it's also who's the best at that, who plays the most of that, and what are the best stats there. We still have that rating system there for Paradise, but we want to make sure that people that just do that are still getting recognized.
Yeah. So you're talking about having fun and your ranking system, and I looked down at the bottom of your homepage and I saw something that was kind of interesting. It said man mode, chicken tenders, and pon luck. I have no idea what that means. Can you please explain it? Because I'm very interested in it.
Oh my god. So all of us here at Tiermonster are fans of Smite, and also fans of streams and fans of the community. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to have fun little awards. Now we're making more of them. We're gonna make a bunch more. This is the first 3 that we made, and of course anyone who's a fan of Smite, man mode is a tribute to Lassus, a very popular streamer. Chicken Tender, of course, is tribute to Matty Pocket, and then Pon Luck is of course a tribute to Pon.
Yeah.
These are just things that have kind of coalesced in the Smite community as references to that. I mean, obviously, in the early stages of beta, back when Lassus used to mid or feed all the time, He would always, he still does, just not as much. He would screen man mode and dive a tower, and he would just jump in there and try to get kills, and usually he would get out. So man mode, what it is it's the player that receives and gives the most amount of damage while getting the most amount of kills. So it's basically someone who gets a lot of kills, does a lot of damage, but also takes a lot of damage at the same time. So it's man mode, meaning you dive into towers, you go to team fights, you run directly into ultimates, you eat lasers to the face, but you still kill everyone and do lots of damage. That is what the man mode award is, and it's based just solely on the last week of stats.
Okay.
So that's all it's going to be there for. It's literally every week we update it based on the last week of stats, and who did the most damage, got the most amount of kills, and took the most damage will be the man mode for that week. The chicken tender is is for the player, and this is directly from the bag. It's for the player who is unfortunate enough to die the most amount of times the previous week, but yet took the least amount of damage. This is something that Matty Pocket would complain about. It's just someone who is really not doing very much, but they're dying a lot. So it's kind of like a joke, funny, mess around award. Obviously, it's not the greatest, most prestigious award, but it's just kind of funny, something that people can enjoy. They can, come to Tiermonster and look at it. And if you ever get one of these awards, it will be on your profile permanently. So if you were a man mode at some point, it'll be on your profile for the rest of your days. So everyone knows that you were a man mode once, or you were a chicken tender, or anything like that. The Pon Pon Luck is the player that took the most damage but suffered the least amount of deaths. So basically, you're absorbing a lot of damage, but you still escape alive at the end of it. You don't really have the final death, and that's just going to be
that makes sense.
The Pon Pon Luck that everyone says. He always gets away with like 12 HP. So whoever takes the most amount of damage but has the least amount of total deaths for that week will get the Pon Pon Luck award.
Nice. That's really interesting that you guys can take all these statistics and like apply them together to get all these different kind of rankings. Do you take them directly from the Smite website, or from how do you take these?
From the HiRez API for Smite.
Okay, nice, interesting. All right, so I'm gonna move on. Thank you so much for talking about Tiermonster.com. It seems like a very, very awesome and I feel like necessary website for the Smite community to grow as a whole. I'm gonna ask you just general questions about Smite that some people seem really interested in yesterday. So what got you into Smite? You said that you played League of Legends earlier. Are you just a really big fan of MOBA games?
Yeah, well, what happened is I played a lot of World of Warcraft. I'm sure a lot of people did. And I really liked PvP and Arena. I liked playing, just competing in that aspect. I like PvP a lot. And then when Heroes of New Earth went into beta, I was a big fan of Warcraft 3. I played a lot of Warcraft 3 Melee. I played, like years and years of it. But I never got into Dota 1, the original Dota for Warcraft. I don't know what it was. I just couldn't get into it. And then when Heroes of New Earth came out into beta, I really enjoyed playing it. It was literally just like Dota, but a more clean platform. There was better graphics and more involvement. It seemed to be smoother. Obviously, when you're trying to make a game from a mod in an old Warcraft 3 game, it wasn't really as fun. So I loved Heroes of New Earth for the longest time, and I played it through the beta and then through release as well. And then that kind of fell off. I felt like I was looking for something more, and my biggest gripe about Han or Dota is that there's more of a reliance on your team. Obviously, without skill shots or anything like that, it's more about positioning and playing smart and itemization. And it slows the game down a lot. It's more tactical, and there's less that's less casual, I would say. Just because there's less things you can do individually, and you have a lot of reliance on your team and also your positioning. So when I started playing League of Legends a bunch, and I played that for a while, just because I like the fact that if I was playing at my tip top, I could 1v3 or I could 1v4, just because I can avoid the abilities that are coming at me rather than just kind of eating it because it's auto aimed. And then that didn't really stick too well. I played Dota 2 through the first international. I got into the beta early, and again that didn't really stick either. And then at one point, one of my friends was talking about Smite, and I heard about it, and then I kind of just shrugged it off. And then a week later, I saw it pop up as an ad on, I think it was like MobaFire. I was looking for a build for a League of Legends character, and then I saw it. I was like, well, maybe I should just try it. So I bought the $8 gem pack. I got into Smite, and then immediately just fell in love. I mean, it was like the third person aspect just made it so much more involved. Obviously, everything just became more exciting, and it combined everything I loved about World of Warcraft PvP and also like Rift PvP, just MMO PvP, and then put in the MOBA aspect, and everything kind of just came together to this just perfect storm, I guess, and I fell in love immediately.
Order Alliance.
I think okay. You heard
Had to be Horde.
Horde?
I was Alliance.
Horde. The Horde!
Oh my gosh. I always played Alliance until Blood Elves came out, but Enough of talking about World of Warcraft. This isn't a WoW stream. Someone wanted to know, who is your favorite god in Smite?
I think the answer should always be Zeus, just because I mean it changes based on like what I like playing. But I think the god that started it all was Zeus, and I always come back to Zeus. He's just always going to be my favorite character until something comes out that replaces him. I mean, it was Arachne for a while, and then she fell off, and then it was Isis. I love Isis now. So Isis and Zeus are like my favorite characters. It kind of just bounces around depending on my playstyle or what I'm playing, but I think it's always just been Zeus.
I feel the same way. Like, I will always love Amir because he's like the one god that I focused on a lot, and I barely actually play him anymore, but he'll always still be my favorite, even if I never play him again. All right, so you've talked a lot about other MOBA games, so you're pretty experienced in all of them. Out of all the other MOBA style games, such as Han, Dota, League of Legends, what makes Smite different in your opinion?
Well, I think if you were to look at it just at a cursory glance, it's going to be the third-person aspect. So the fact that you can't see behind you, I mean, I think a lot of MOBA players really take for granted the bird's eye view. The fact that when you're getting ganked from behind, you will see it regardless. You're kind of forced to because of the fixed eye perspective. So when you're looking down at your character, like, oh, there's a guy behind me type thing, instead of Smite where you're sitting there kind of looking at attacking minions, and all of a sudden Defender grabs you and runs away. And you're like, well, I didn't see that. That was something I probably should have seen, but I didn't see it until it was happening. So that just the third-person aspect allows people to sneak up on you. It means that you know, when you're running away, you can't see behind you unless you look at the mini-map. So it makes things more immersive. Obviously, you're in the game. The team fights are more interactive. The fact that you can see through walls, you know, like the Left 4 Dead type style with those silhouettes. I mean, it brings you into the game more, makes things more exciting, and also makes it more I don't know, it's more enjoyable to play because it's not, you know, you're not clicking around, you're actually moving and being involved with the game. So everything is just bolstered or enhanced by the fact that you're looking directly at it.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think the aesthetics of it make a lot of the difference for Smite compared to all the other MOBA games. All right, so yesterday I pulled some viewer questions. I'm probably going to do some in our live chat right now later on. But Amonic asks, how does Drybear imagine himself in 5 years?
That's you know, I think about this a lot. You know, I was like preparing for the future. I always like having a plan, and what it always was originally, for those of you who don't know, is I'm about to finish my final year of computer engineering. So I'm majoring in computer engineering currently. Obviously, I have a databasing job. I've done several internships. I've been on a couple projects for certain things, and I've always wanted to just go do that. But I think what happened just about 11 months ago when I started the YouTube channel is I'm realizing more and more how much I like esports. I've always been a fan of esports. Obviously, I've been gaming since I was like 4 years old. And you know, what I noticed is like anytime I played Han, I would follow the competitive scene like aggressively. I would always be watching. You know, I'd be watching Fnatic and MSI every time they played. You know, like Trixie was my favorite player, and I just loved watching it just all day, every day. And you know, I was the guy where when I was hanging out with my gaming friends, they'd be like, they'd just be sitting there playing. I'm like, well, you know, I just got to see the game today, or you know, just see the tournament, the finals. It was so crazy. You know, I was always involved with it, and I've always been very passionate about it. And I think it took the YouTube channel. And then obviously my viewers, like what I did to spruce up my videos is every time I would die in one of the commentaries, I would cast my teammates. I would be just shoutcasting just for fun. I was just joking around, just like messing around. And then it came to the point where like every time I did that in the comment section of the YouTube video, everyone would be like, "Why aren't you casting? You should go cast. We need you to cast. Go cast a live tournament or something." So they wanted me to do it, and they kind of pushed me to do it. And eventually, I did start casting. I mean, obviously, but it just came to the point now where I'm realizing how much I do enjoy it. And then if it comes to be a viable option for me, I think I would rather do that. So I mean, if it pans out, I think in 5 years I would love to be just doing YouTube, going to live events, casting, and making a living off that. Obviously, it's something I have to be careful about. And I will always have that computer engineering degree with me and the experience and the long resume history for that. So that's something that I always fall back on. But I think I might just take some time and try and explore that option.
Yeah, that would definitely be great, and people definitely seem to respond to you well. And you cast now for Smite on the EU tournaments on Sundays.
Right.
And you definitely seem to get a great reaction out of that. So you definitely have a niche for it. Nuji, sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. Nuji asks, when did you decide how, I'm sorry, this is actually worded very oddly. When did you decide that you would start helping with the Smite community?
And this is the weirdest thing in the world. I never knew that Twitch and YouTube had such a strong segregation.
Oh,
It didn't
yeah.
cross my mind that they were just so perfectly separated that it's almost like no one really knows each other across it. Because obviously I was doing YouTube since July. I mean, the beta came out. The closed beta came out, it was May 31st, so just right in there. And then I was doing it since July. So right after the release of the closed beta, I was doing YouTube from July all the way until December. So a good amount of YouTube videos. I had like over 100. I was doing Smite all the time, and people recognized me in game. But it wasn't until I started streaming that everyone realized that I existed.
Yeah.
So I was just like trying to contribute to the community. I was just kind of doing YouTube videos just to do them, and then people were just pushing me to stream, and I was like, okay, I'll finally stream. And then when I first streamed, like my first day, I got like 150, 200 viewers.
Oh wow,
And
that's
I didn't
fantastic.
understand what that was. Obviously, I was plugging myself on my YouTube channel, so I already had a following prior. But everyone in Smite, they were kind of just sitting there looking at the Twitch list, and they're like, who is this random person who has 200 viewers? I don't know who this guy is. And they're like, oh, it's probably some big YouTuber from another game, or he's like one of the creatures or something. It's something we've never heard of. And they go and like, all he plays is Smite. Who is this person? So I mean, there's a big disconnect in my mind that I didn't realize that the people that watch Twitch only watch Twitch, and the people that watch YouTube only watch YouTube, and there's a small intersect in between. But a lot of times there's a big separation between the two. And it wasn't until I started streaming that people actually knew who I was or even recognized me. And it all kind of just it avalanched downward. Like once I started streaming, then I started casting, and then I was like casting and streaming. Then I got picked up for the Smite Game channel, and I was casting the official tournaments and all that. And I mean, just it all kind of snowballed down that way. But it really there was just such a big separation that I didn't realize that until I started streaming, I was a nobody.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that feeling. I mean, I stream myself, and I've seen that on YouTube. It's very disconnected from how the transfers over, except for like really big people such as the creatures. They make a lot of YouTube videos, and they also stream all the time, so they have a lot of followers on both sides. But you stream for the Smite stream right in this channel, twitch.tv/Smite game. You stream from 1 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to 4?
Yes.
Yes. And do you ever stream on your own personal stream?
No, not currently, just because like that's the time I'm supposed to be sleeping. So like when I get off stream, I have to do extra work and all that. So I'm just so busy that like literally those 3 hours is like the most I can muster. So I really don't have any extra time to stream my own channel. But I mean, a little later this summer, I will be streaming on my own channel. It's just like any time I would have had to do anything for my own channel besides YouTube would be going towards Smite games. So that's really where I'm at right now.
Yeah. Okay. Spudward asks if there is any other new features you would like to see be implemented into Tiermonster, or what your plans for it are in the future.
We have a lot of plans for Tiermonster. We've been working on it pretty much all year. And then we went into a closed beta, which no one knew about, because we only gave it to about 150 to 200 competitive players. And our goal there was to make sure that, because when you first sign up for Tiermonster, or when you go to the HiRez Smite API, the farthest back we can go is 50 games. There's nothing logged beyond that. So when we go to grab stats from your character, all we can see is your last 50 games, which would be posted up on your match history. That's all we can see. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to start logging as many games of the competitive players as we could. So we had a good base of statistics for these players, because obviously people that sign up on Tiermonster, they're gonna look at their own stats, but there's gonna be a lot of people looking at who's the best at Smite, and what can we learn from them. So we want to make sure that we did a closed beta where only competitive players were invited. There was a beta key you had to put in to sign up, and we just logged as many games as we could for those competitive players. I mean, right now we're sitting at about 265,000 matches archived in our own database.
Oh wow.
So I mean, as long as you're on Tiermonster, any game you play will be recorded, and we'll save it in our database to make sure that we have that all archived. So obviously you want to sign up as soon as you can to make sure those all are logged on. But we just want to make sure that we had that beta stage to make sure all the competitive players had that logged on. As far as the future of Tiermonster, I mean, we're looking at doing a more casual tournament. We're looking at doing more gem giveaways. We're looking at having content creators come over to our site and make videos for us. We're looking at bolstering our forum section, having more statistics, adding in graphs, adding in anything that the community wants from the website. We'll be implementing. We're obviously paying attention to our forums and the feedback, and make sure that if it's something that somebody wants, we'll put it in.
Definitely. That's awesome, listening to the community that well. Travis asks, does Drybear feel that MOBA players in general are too emotional and easily frustrated, or is that just a sign of engagement in the game?
And I've been looking to make a guide on this, and I want to put a lot of effort to it in time, so probably we'll be seeing that later this summer. But the biggest thing that players do, and the reason why they get so frustrated, is physiologically what they're doing is they're taking responsibility away from themselves. So if you don't take responsibility for the game, if you're blaming your teammates for something, automatically, regardless of what it is, whether it be video games, whether it be life, work, friends, anything, if you take responsibility away from yourself, if you blame someone for something else, and then you're looking at something and say, I didn't do any of this, it's their fault. When you have no control of the situation and something bad happens, it's going to cause a lot of frustration and anger and ill feelings. So when they take that away, you're like, it's my teammate's fault we lost. You're going to be very upset about that because you can't control anything. But that's not really what it is. I mean, I think it's just to the point where people are not giving themselves enough credit. They're not giving themselves and taking enough responsibility for the game to the point that they are automatically get frustrated no matter what. So when you're blaming someone else, you're going to get that feeling. So I think that's really what it comes down to, is not enough players take responsibility for their own play, for their own, if you're going to win, you're going to win, type thing where you have to take responsibility for it. And that's just where the toxicity comes from. That it's just, I mean, obviously, if you come into a 5-player game and you're playing with 4 people you've never met before, and you're requiring them to work together as a team, there's going to be issues. There's going to be, lack of communication, or the fact that, 2 people did want to do, different things, like this guy wants to do Fire Giant and this guy wants to start a team fight, and then both do their own thing, and obviously this guy dies in the team fight, and then he dies to Fire Giant, like, what are you doing? And everyone's all upset and angry. So there's going to be that lack of communication there. So there's always going to be something wrong with that. But I think overall people are just not focused enough on themselves as a player, and too much, outwardly inflected to other players and what they're doing and how they're affecting them. And when you do that too much, you're going to cause yourself a lot of distress and frustration, just, by the sheer physiological basics of it.
Yeah, definitely. And it definitely seems to be a trend in a lot of MOBA games compared to a lot of other games, stuff like such as, I don't know, StarCraft, or maybe even shooter games. Even in shooters, you have to work as teams, but in MOBAs, especially when you do public games, there definitely seems to be a lot of BM, as they call it, bad manners, where it's just common. And like I've seen in Reddit posts and forum posts, that BM is just a part of it and it should be acceptable. And to a level, I kind of agree, but there should be, especially on a competitive scene, there should definitely be a limit. Do you think that the BM and communities such as Smite or even other MOBAs should be restrained, or do you think it's okay the way it is?
That is a very, very challenging. MOBA companies have done their best, but I mean, it's really difficult to, like, I mean, if someone's really mad and then they BM, and then you have something, some kind of algorithm that mutes them or shuts them up for 5 minutes, they're going to be angrier, and they may even quit your game and stop playing. So, I mean, that's a source of income for them. So at a certain point, you have to think about, how can we prevent this? You kind of have to do it in an ingenious fashion, just by the way the game is constructed or how it's played, to make sure that the infuriating aspects don't happen too much. I think removing all chat is a big contributor to that. So it's an example of designing the game to a point where it discourages or prevents the kind of anger that would cause BM. So I think, instead of looking at the BM, you can look at what causes the anger and, the aggression towards other people. So if you can prevent that, then maybe you can kind of limit it. But I mean, it's to the point where, I mean, like you said, in a game of 5v5 where you have a heavy reliance on your teammates, there's going to be issues no matter what. I mean, if you look at, FPS games, you can get like a clutch ace, which is you're the last man standing, but you kill the other 5. This is in Counter-Strike. Like I played a bunch of Counter-Strike. But it's called a clutch ace, where you're the last guy standing, you kill the other 5. I don't think anyone can ever think of a point where you're the last man standing in a MOBA game and then you get a pentakill. It's not. There's no clutch ace in MOBAs because you have such a high reliance on your team, to the point where you really have to have them around, have to work together. You need wards, you need vision. And the other thing too is, I think a lot of it as well is the laning phase. In the beginning of the game, it's not a team game as much because there's like a 2v2, a 1v1, or 2v2. I mean, you can look at Dota Han, there could be like a tri-lane or a solo lane or a jungle or whatever, but there's always that separated factor in the beginning. There's always going to be a laning phase where you're 2v2, and then when someone's lane comes to gank you, you're like, God, why? It's 3v2 now. I died, and it's your fault. It's just that separation in the game, those separate worlds really make it easy to be frustrated, and then that the direction is always towards whoever lane it was, whoever it came from, that it's their fault type thing, because you had this, it's easy to fall into this tunnel vision of your lane. It's just you and the other 2 people, and that's it. And then when you get ganked, you have to train yourself to think outside the box and be in that team aspect throughout the entirety of the game. And people kind of fall into this like little box in the laning phase, and then that's where the anger usually starts. Is like if someone feeds in the laning phase, or you get ganked, or something bad happens in the laning phase, it just snowballs from there, and that's where the anger usually starts. So I think changing the mental aspect to be that even though we're in the laning phase, it's still a team game, and we have to pay attention to the lanes. And MIA calls are a luxury; they're a courtesy. They're not required. You should be looking at their lanes and keeping that mental awareness available. That if that's an easy way to prevent that kind of anger and frustration that you see in MOBA games all the time.
All the time. So I've been looking at chat periodically throughout this interview and picking up questions that I see on the stream. So I'm going to go through those right now. And if anyone else has any more questions in chat, actually, Bart, can you put chat in slow mode right now? So we don't get a spam of questions. Joe Ushazi asks, why the name Drybear?
No one knows.
No one knows? It's a secret?
It is a grand secret that has been asked since the dawn of time. It's that one, and why is there vodka on a hand drill on your bed? These two questions have never been answered. It's always been asked.
All right,
and they'll never know.
Maybe one day, but not today. Not today. Dead Simbiot asks, any advice for future streamers? And I'm going to continue on with that. Any advice for also future YouTubers?
Well, I mean, like we mentioned earlier, the biggest thing is always going to be consistency. And regardless of who you look at, everyone had a rough start. Until you're known, you really have not much to work on. Now, as far as YouTube goes, be consistent. Make as many videos. Like, if you're going to make a schedule, especially if you're a streamer, make a schedule as a streamer. That's incredibly important to make sure you have a schedule, because then they'll tune into it. It's just like a TV. If they know that Game of Thrones is on at this time, they'll make sure that they'll plan ahead. They'll sit down, turn on their TV right at that time, and they'll watch Game of Thrones. So you want to make sure that schedule is something that you can follow and look at. As far as YouTube goes, you have to realize that starting out, no one knows who you are. So you're not going to be, you're not going to make something that you would see from the Creatures or from, like these big YouTubers or these gamer tag where they're just hanging out and having a vlog. So don't make vlogs when you're first starting YouTube, because no one knows who you are. They're not going to have any emotional investment in you. I think something that I learned from Trendkill is that when you're first starting out, make guides, because you have to think about incentives. In the beginning, and this is why I started making videos for Smite versus making videos for League of Legends or Dota, because Dota and League of Legends and Call of Duty, they're all saturated. So if you make a video for that, no one's looking for you. You have to make sure that someone's looking for your content. And if you don't exist yet on the internet, so to say, if you don't have a name or you don't have a personality yet, no one's looking for you. So give them something to look for. Make sure that they're searching for you. And you can do that with guides. Obviously, if you're providing something other than just yourself, you're bringing information, you're bringing a tutorial, you're bringing something that they want to know, then they'll look for that. You have to give them a reason to search for you or dig for you, because since your YouTube channel is small, and the way that videos are populated on search results and on the homepage and all that is very complicated. But one of the biggest things is involvement. So it's going to be likes, it's going to be comments, it's going to be how fast the views are coming in. So since your videos are new and you don't really get a whole lot of comments, you don't get a whole lot of likes, and you don't get a whole lot of views, then your videos aren't going to be up on the search results. They're not going to be viewable. So give them something to look for so that you can overcome that lack of view, that lack of findability, so that they're looking for a guide on, I want to learn how to play Odin. And that's what I did in the early Smite, is there weren't very many guides out. There's only a handful. So people were like, I want to know how to play Zeus, or I want to know how to play Odin. And my channel was, I had like 80 subscribers, and my Zeus video had like 3,000 views, which is unheard of. That kind of saturation is so different, just because no one had a Zeus guide. If you go to YouTube and you're like, I want to know how to play Zeus, I was the only one that came up. So that's why you get that kind of coverage, is because you get people are looking for just that. So make sure you make guides in the beginning and be consistent, and just don't get discouraged. The general statistic is nobody makes money off YouTube in their first year. And unless you have some kind of niche. Obviously, I was casting, so I had involvement in Smite, so that kind of carried over. But don't expect to gain anything from it in the first year, and just do it for fun. And then after that, it'll come to fruition. You'll start being able to build from it. You'll get partnered and all that. But don't take it very seriously. I mean, even someone. I mean, now I'm over like 17,000 subscribers, but in the beginning, I was getting like 1 subscriber a day. I was getting 5 to 100 views a day. I had nothing. It was very, very slow. I mean, even for the first 5 months, it was kind of just trickling along, and then eventually it spikes up. It's an exponential increase. So don't be discouraged. Be consistent. Don't be discouraged, and look for new, interesting things to bring. And don't be, don't make a COD video or a Minecraft playthrough. Don't do what everyone else is doing because they're not going to be able to find you.
I definitely agree. And with what you started off before, consistency is definitely key. As a streamer who's been streaming for about a year, consistency is definitely what like brought me up. Where are we? Sonny Blackbones. Which deity would you like to see in Smite, and how do you think it would be? I'm guessing they mean the skills and how they look, etc.
Right. Well, that's kind of hard because it's all. I mean, being a programmer, I know it's implementation dependent. But obviously, Norse is my favorite mythology. It's my favorite pantheon. I've always loved Norse.
Same here. Same here.
So I would love to see more Norse gods. And there's a million ways you can put them into the game. I talked about this like the last few weeks. I want something different in Smite, like a floating head or something weird. It's a different kind of god.
A floating spaghetti monster, maybe?
Yeah, just like something crazy, something weird that everyone's gonna look at like, what is that thing coming towards me type thing, or just like a different ability, something just to bring something different to the table. I would love to see more of Loki's children. I would love to see more of. Maybe another wolf. I think another wolf with a different skill set, or just something different is what I'm looking for. I don't really know. It's hard for me to define something specific.
I agree. I understand
where I came from, but I would love to see more Norse gods, or gosh, I think I thought of one the other day, but I forgot what it was. Kind of just joked around on it, but yeah. Exactly.
I'd like to see Beelzebub.
Dang.
I think that's something from. Oh well. What?
Can we do that? I don't know if we can do that.
Oh no! I'm sorry. I was thinking of something else. My apologies.
Quetzalcoatl?
Yeah, Quetzalcoatl, of course, from Mayan, I believe, or Aztec. Quetzalcoatl would be really cool. I always say.
Jormungandr.
Jormungandr or Tyr. Those would be the next.
What?
So there's.
Tyr.
Tyr is the other kind of most central Norse god that's not in the game.
God of War.
Son of Loki.
Yeah.
There's Jormungandr or whatever his name is.
Alrighty. Mr. Glevkev asks, what does Drybear think of the changing meta with jungle in Smite?
This is something that you kind of have to take with a grain of salt, just because I like the way HiRez is doing it. They're doing injections and then seeing what happens. Obviously, we had focus and we had stats and we had this item and that item and the way things are changing. So this is, I believe, it's just a very strong injection by HiRez. They want to see what happens. Personally, the way it is now, I don't like it. Obviously, they can adjust things, they can change things around, they can figure out, I think you'd have to alter the way the map is to make this work and have different god roles being introduced. But the way it is now, I don't like the 2v1 lane. And then when, if there's two junglers, I don't like the 1v1 lane and the side lane, because usually you're going to pick a strong carry. It's going to come out to be more like League of Legends, where you have this brawler, beefy guy top who just holds down the lane, because the lane's much easier to gank top than it is bottom. Yeah. So I don't like how it slows the game down in the beginning. There's a lot less action when you have someone jungling than you do when you have two people in the lane fighting it out to the death. So that is one of the reasons why I don't like it. Now, does that mean that for the future with adjustments or new items or new introductions of gods, can that always be the case? No. They can introduce someone who is really good at 2v1ing, or you can introduce more characters that have harder CC in the laning phase, so you can, when someone's 2v1, they better watch out type thing. Obviously that changes team fights, and it has implications all over the place, and that's why MOBAs are so hard to balance. Balance, for anyone who knows, balance is a very, very difficult prospect. Balance, especially in a game that's 5v5 and team game that has phases and transitions. You have the early game, you have the laning phase, you have the transition to the mid game, to the late game, to the late game, objective securing. There's so many implications, and that's why it's so hard to balance. Look at a character like Zeus. Zeus previously was really good late game. He was very, very strong.
Yeah.
But his low level and laning phase were terribly weak. He was very susceptible to ganks, very easily killed. So if you do any buffs to the laning phase to make him strong in the laning phase, that's going to amplify and bolster his late game. So there's implications and effects that kind of like tendril out to all stages of the game, and balance is so difficult. So when you look at something, you're like, I don't like this. You kind of have to be patient to figure it out. But I guess the long answer short is I don't like the way it's affecting the meta now, because it slows the game down, and that's one of the reasons why I loved Smite originally. It's so fast paced and there's so many deaths. Yeah,
definitely. So you don't think that they should take it out? You think they should just twink it a little bit?
Well, I'm not a type of person that says if I don't like something, I'm just get rid of it. Yeah. There's obviously ways you can tweak it and change it and make it work. I mean, I felt the same way about focus and stats. It's just focus and stats. That's the other thing too, is if you're going to commit to it, you kind of have to. I'm sure HiRez thought the same way, because like, you know, when they were doing focus and stats, you had to change everything around it. And focus was a point where when you started adding focus, it's hard to balance a character as it is, but when you're worrying about how to balance it with focus, you know, like you know, Agni's stun was like very low duration, but then when you add focus, it's like 0.2 seconds. You're like, why is this even a stun until I get focus? Or then you had focus Amir, who his stun was forever, and you're like,
I remember that.
Couldn't do anything because his heal was based on focus, and his movement speed was based on focus, and he couldn't do anything. So you're balancing so many aspects that you have to put in a lot of effort to change the game around focus to make it work, that it's a challenge, and once you commit to it, you kind of have to commit to it. And I feel the same way about the jungle. If they want to have the jungle, they have to commit to it and make all the gods balanced around it, make sure there's solo laners available, make sure that everyone understands. And I think from a casual perspective, the jungle makes things challenging, because then you have to worry about you know, who's going to be able to 2v1 lane. Can they do it? Do they have the god that does it? I don't think there's a whole lot of gods to choose from that can 2v1 right now, with the small set of gods that we have, so it makes things challenging. And I think it provides for more anger in casual games, because you have a 2v1 and you're like, I'm going to go jungle, and then he dies 12 times. Like, why did you die? It's like, you left me alone, you know, type things, which is, there's more anger there. So I think if they want to commit to it, they're going to have to, and change out a lot about the map and about the way the game works to make it work. But I'm sure they're just kind of just gathering information about how it works.
Definitely, I definitely agree. Emma12 asks, what is your least favorite god and or gods?
I think it's probably Bacchus or Agni.
Why do you hate Bacchus?
I can't play Bacchus. He bores me to tears.
How is he boring?
Sit there and you sip, and every now and then you sit on somebody, and then you just wait for other people to do.
He's like one of the only gods with constant micro. You have to constantly remind yourself to drink. I think that's interesting.
No, he bores me. No.
Oh my goodness.
Boring.
What god do you hate facing against?
Probably Poseidon.
Oh, God, yeah.
Just because of his kiddie pool of death. I think Veil of Isolation is the most irritating ability to go against, where you just get stuck and you're just like constantly trying to run. You can't leap or anything. You're just stuck.
Oh,
like,
yeah, that.
Go away.
I
really
hate it. I do too. I do too. That cripple always gets me.
Triple slow. You're just like, oh my god, please,
I know.
Please no.
Taco Power 111 asks, is there any kind of map you would like to see, such as an all jungle map?
All jungle map.
I know, right? I was questioning the same thing.
That's an interesting idea. I think they could add in more objectives. Maybe they can bring back like the Kraken as an enemy. They can add in more mythological creatures. Just have like some kind of crazy stuff to fight, and they can make it, you know, more involved that way. But that's challenging because you're reinventing the wheel there. You're kind of like making something new. They can build off maybe custom games from StarCraft or Warcraft that involve that. But I mean, then it becomes more of like I don't know. That'd be interesting. I guess it would be more like Warcraft 3 used to be, where you'd have to go clear camps and you'd like run into each other at camp and you have to fight. I don't know. I think it'd be cool, but it would definitely require a lot of, you know, think tank type action.
Oh,
we have to sit down and figure out how to do it.
Definitely. Blue Morpho Paradise asks, when is the next Accession to Godhood video coming? I've been refreshing your channel 2 to 5 times every
I'm kind of caught between a rock and a hard place right now with so many deadlines, and I had we're preparing for software launch on another project I'm working on, and then I'm working on an Android app, and then I have finals and all that, so just a lot of stuff all at once. So soon, and I know a lot of people are looking forward to the success through thought. I mean, I made one video and it was just like this viral thing. It was like, I want more. But it's all coming, most likely within the next week.
Okay. Shadow523 asks, do you think deities such as Amaterasu and Susanoo would fit into Smite? And I'm guessing, expanding on from that, do you think different pantheons should be entered into Smite as well? Because they seem to be focusing on Greek and Hindu, but I don't think they're doing Hindu much anymore.
Well, I think that the answer comes down to the answer that always gets asked. I mean, it gets asked like once a day, is like, how many gods are they going to make? And it's just like, as they want type thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, anytime they feel like they want to add a pantheon, they're going to. And I think there's plenty of gods to choose from. I think it would be really cool to add in a Japanese pantheon or something different. You know, you could add in just those different pantheons. I mean, obviously, there's a close correlation between Greek and Roman just by proximity and area and time when those pantheons were created. But you know, if you add in Japanese or anything, I think Susanoo would be awesome. I think Amaterasu would be awesome. I think there's a lot of different pantheons they could delve into, and it's also, I mean, like I said earlier, it's also implementation dependent. They could take a god that you would expect to be one way, and they can implement it any way they want. I mean, there's not, I
Definitely.
mean, you can't like go into an old like mythology book and be like, oh, well, his ultimate does this. You know, it's not.
Yeah.
They can put it any way they want as long as they stick to the lore. So I mean,
Uh-huh.
there's a lot of cool things they could do, and I'm sure there's a lot coming.
Smithboy236 asks, if you wanted to change anything with any of the gods, what god would it be, and what would you change about it? So I guess they're asking if there's a god you think should be changed. What would you have like changed by that?
I would sneak into the HiRez office and just delete Poseidon.
Delete Poseidon entirely?
Just delete him.
You don't like the Kraken?
No. Gone.
Especially with that new Golden Kraken? You
The
can't.
Golden Kraken.
You can't delete Golden Kraken.
I hate his kiddie pool. I want him to go away. As far as like adjustments go, I don't know. Maybe make Sobek physical.
Really? Oh, you know what? I kind of agree with that actually. Now that you say that.
Fighting and whipping and
Yeah.
clawing and.
Well, a lot of people say that about a lot of the tanks, such as
Yeah, that's
Ares and
true.
Athena.
Yeah.
But
Well, the thing is, it's like, and the tough part is most of the carries are going to be physical. You have the magical carries, but you're only going to have one of them usually. You can go side lane magic, but the problem is if you have physical tank and a physical carry, they're just going to buy physical protection.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you kind of have to have that split for the very reason that you're going to have physical carries and then magical tanks. So if you have a whole bunch of physical tanks, it changes the way you pick. So if, originally Hercules was a tank, and a support with his Earthbreaker being 55 feet. Then they reduced that down to 40 feet, double the radius, or increased the radius by 150% on his ultimate, then added more scaling and damage to make Hercules more of a brawler.
Yeah.
And that's really where physical, tanky people fit, is more in a brawling role, just because of the fact that your carries are already physical. So if you have a physical tank, then you kind of have to have side lane magical carries to make it balanced. Just because, I mean, it's so easy to build against it. I mean, obviously, towers do physical damage. All that stuff. If you build physical protection, it benefits you in more ways than just the gods. Minions as well. I mean, it's really important to have that. So it's coming to the point where you kind of have to have that split just to make it make sense. But if you wanted to add in physical tanks, you should add in more side lane viable magical carries.
I just want to note that we have about 5 to 10 minutes left over, so I'm just going to get as many of these questions I can get in. Please don't feel that you need to rush or answer short questions. I'm just going to get until we get to 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. my time. Where are you? Elon Dyer asks, Dry, are there any players that you look up to in terms of Smite or the Twitch YouTube community? I ask because you mentioned Trendkill.
In terms of Smite, I love the Smite community. I think it's amazing how much brotherly and sisterly love there is between the players. You see players from different teams playing together all the time. There's just, I have a lot of respect and adoration for all the people who contribute to the Smite community, and there's just too many to name, to be completely honest with you. But like as far as YouTube goes, I mean, I'm surprised that I actually met Trendkill. We're actually good friends now. Which was surprising because when I first started making my channel, Trendkill was like this big YouTuber. He made a guide on how to grow your YouTube channel, and I watched it. I watched like the whole series. I was like, oh my god, this is so great. And I met him in the game. I was like, is this the real Trendkill? Like the nerding out type aspect. Like, is this the real Trendkill? I was like, yeah, what's up? And then actually we met each other. We actually became friends, and we'll probably be doing videos together this summer.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it's just really cool to talk to people. And I mean, you just realize that everyone's just, I mean, they're all just people, and just playing video games together, and there's just a lot of friendliness, and meeting a couple of the creatures, or some of the big YouTubers. I mean, there's a lot of people I look up to, and one of the biggest ones I think was probably like a couple of the COD guys like Woody's Gamertag, and then definitely like Purge from Dota 2 was a big inspiration as well.
Nice. Skyblade13 asks, with all the utility new gods possess, do you think old gods such as Ra and Art are slowly being phased out?
What you have to be careful about, and something that, again, it goes back to how difficult balance is that it's going to come down to the meta. Now, do characters always fit into the current meta? No. You look at Vulcan, Vulcan was picked up constantly. He was a big pickup, very strong character.
Definitely.
But with the way the meta is now, he doesn't really fit into it, I mean, he's kind of like forever alone over there on the side. Doesn't mean that he got changed. Doesn't mean that he's bad or good. It's just that he doesn't really fit in the current role. And this has always been the way it works, and it's always comes down to, can you figure out how to use a character? Now, a couple examples of that, is Master Yi from League of Legends was a physical carry, but he had his second ability, his W, and then his ultimate both do magic. They scale off of magic. So for the longest time in the beginning of League of Legends, which came out in 2009, Master Yi was a side lane carry and a good split pusher, and he did physical damage. However, one day someone was like, "Hey, I'm gonna build magical," and then they went into a tournament and they killed everybody.
Yeah.
Because like his W and I think his Q as well, his Alpha Strike also do magic damage and scale off of that. So he literally just he just attacks, heals up, and then does his ultimate and does it again type thing. So it worked out well for him to be magical carry, and up until that point, no one thought of it. So I mean, there are characters I'm sure that are just sleepers in Smite, where one day someone's gonna be like, "Oh my God, Bash, that's amazing," and they're just gonna figure out something that works. Or and another example is that it's gonna be Balfagor in Heroes of North. Balfagor was a character which was widely regarded as one of the worst characters in the Heroes of North. He was never picked up, always terrible. One day, someone figured out that you could solo the Fire Giant in that game at like level 6. Just by using his minions and picking up the right item. And all of a sudden, now he has reincarnation. Now he has 2 levels up on everybody. And then his ultimate. So he just goes in, fights a team fight, respawns because he has reincarnation. And he just dominated everything. He was completely unstoppable. And then he got nerfed 2 weeks later. So the character that was the worst character in Heroes of North that never got picked up got nerfed.
Yeah.
So it's just like, once you figure out how to use those characters and implement them properly, all of a sudden they're different. And another good example is Odin hasn't changed. Odin has been Odin for the longest time. Nothing has really happened to Odin, and all of a sudden he's being picked up and banned every single tournament on the weekends when nothing happened. I mean, he hasn't changed. He's exactly the same. Odin wasn't picked up. I mean, January, February, or December, no one liked Odin. Odin was kind of every now and then you pick him up. Now he's a mainstay type thing. He's always, you'll see him every single weekend, Saturday, Sunday. You'll see Odin being picked up, and you see Odin being banned for a lot of reasons.
Definitely.
When previously he didn't change. He's exactly the same. So people figure out ways to implement them, find out the strengths about a character. I mean, it's just very hard to say, what characters need this or that, and you kind of just wait for them to fit into the meta or for someone to figure out how to use them.
Aloot Pro asks if you could change any, or I'm sorry, that's actually not, well, I'll ask it anyway. If you could change any of the maps in any way, what would you do?
I like the mirrored aspect, the symmetry in the Smite map.
Definitely.
Works pretty well. As far as like changing it, maybe, I don't know, I think they've done a lot of good changes so far. Obviously they need more room for Gold Fury to make that open a little bit better. I think maybe opening up the Fire Giant mouth a little bit more, so there's less, you can't wall it off with a mirrored wall, or maybe like change. It's gonna have a lot of ripple effect with the meta and everything that changes there. But I think more room is always better to prevent, obviously, so you can't Ao-Kuang ultimate the door, or you can't Ra ultimate the door, or you can't put a tornado block up the door. I mean, I feel like, you look at League of Legends, or you look at Heroes of North, you look at Dota, it's more of a wider mouth, and there's more area behind it. I don't think there's enough area in front of the Fire Giant for there to be good team fights or strategy. I mean, you can ward it once and cover the whole thing. I think there's just too much cramped space. Like, there's a small door, and there's walls everywhere, so it's very tight. So in order to come and contest the Fire Giant, you're pretty much stuck into lots of AoE and CC, all that. So it makes it difficult to contest the Fire Giant. Whereas you look like Heroes of North and Dota 2 with Roshan, and then also Kongor, it's a big open river and a wide mouth. And the same thing for League of Legends, a little bit smaller, but also a big open area with a river and also the wide mouth. So there's more room for team fights and more strategy rather than just, I'm going to freeze 5 people because I'm a mirror and everyone's standing in one corner.
Yeah, I definitely agree. We have time for one more question. I'm going to let people ask some questions in here. I saw one that I wanted to ask. Okay, Drago Wolf 72 asks, if you could add and remove one item from the game, what would it be? So I'm guessing when they say add an item, they might mean like it could be an active spell item or maybe a starting item. What would you add and what would you remove?
I think we're in a comfortable spot for starting items. There could be more starting items. I think there should be more early game items.
Such as?
I talked about this with Mace to the Face earlier in the Tiermonster interview. It's just, making Hydra's Lament cheaper, so it's more of an early game item. You look at items that, Void Stone's I'm talking about like early game items that you sell later. Not starting items, but like early items that would help you out. In general, you kind of pick it up just to help you transition along, but not like a starting item where it kind of falls off within the first 5 minutes type thing. So just something that would make the early game more of a fight fest and less of a farm fest type thing. Obviously, farm fest is very loosely worded here just because Smite is anything but that compared to the MOBAs. I mean, there would be 10 minutes straight of farming in other MOBAs where Smite is just like there's gonna be a lot of tower pushing and team fights and ganks and all that. But I think maybe shifting a little bit of focus to the early game to balance things out and make them a little bit smoother transitions so that there's less feeding and anger and all that, and maybe more starting items. Remove an item. I don't think there's an item that really needs to be removed. I think we just need more of an item base. And maybe some items being changed. I think Fatalis should be changed again. I think it's just too much of a niche item, and I think it should be more balanced away from attack speed and maybe put crit on it with less attack speed, just to balance it out, make it more of a more popular item. But I think we just need more items is all it is.
Definitely. Alrighty, well, Drybear, thank you so much for coming on to Smite Game and doing an interview with me. It means a lot, and it definitely seems like the chat enjoyed it a lot. And for the chat, definitely check out Drybear's channel on YouTube and follow him on Twitter and follow his, make sure to watch him on stream on this channel right here, twitch.tv/Smite Game. He streams from 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. EST.
Yes.
And your YouTube channel is youtube.com/DrybearGamers.
That's correct.
And also, of course, definitely check out Tiermonster.com, especially if you're trying to get a part of the Smite community, and check out their 8,000 gem giveaway. When are you guys going to be doing that?
We do 1,600 every weekend.
Wow. That's very nice. Alrighty, guys, thank you so much, and I just want to thank you, Drybear, again. I want to thank the chat for putting in their questions as well. I guess we will all see you in about 9 hours or 10 hours.
10 hours, yeah.
Yeah, math difficult. All right, thank you so much, Drybear.
Of course, thank you.